Hello, welcome to Signal and Noise, podcast in marketing research, brought to you by ROI Rocket, the Market One's company. We're thankful for them to help us do this every week or two. My name is Brian Lamar, your co-host, along with Andrew. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
I can't complain, Brian. It is Friday. It's busy, but I'd rather be busy than bored. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I did a lot of traveling the last couple of weeks. I just got off a plane an hour and a half ago, and I guess that's what the podcast will be is about today. Is you and I went to a conference together, actually
Mhm.
two conferences,
That's right.
and 2 days with Insights Association Ignite, and then I went to IIEX, and we also want to promote a webinar we're doing. That's May 12th at 2 p.m.
hmm
around trends, and we pushed this webinar back a couple weeks because I wanted to go to the conferences, and there's always trends talk, right? And
Absolutely.
so I did form some new opinions over the past few weeks, which we probably won't get into today. Maybe in a blog post, but definitely in the webinar. But yeah, let's talk about conferences. Which one? What do you want to start with?
Well, I think it's valuable to sort of like trend the trends, right? Go out,
Yes.
gather information. What are people actually talking about, and are there any shifts that we're seeing?
Yeah.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the GDQ, which those results were actually unveiled at the Insights Association Ignite Data Quality event in Hoboken. I don't have those in front of me, but certainly remember some of them. We can talk through them. Kind of shameless promotion. We're members of the Insights Association. If you're listening and you're not, you should totally join, and you should submit data to the Global Data Quality Initiative. It provides benchmarks for the industry that it's really important for us to even have the proper conversation about what panel quality looks like. Brian, anything that surprised you from that presentation?
Yes. For the GDQ, what surprised me were really the B2B removals and the healthcare removals. And we sat together and talked about it already in person with other people. But I think it was 46% post survey removals on B2B work. And that's the benchmark, which is crazy. 46.5%. So even higher. That's post survey removals. Pre survey removals, 21%. So imagine how much B2B sample we're going through as an industry. And then still in survey, which is that exists also. And that's just what we're measuring. There's lots of other stuff that probably isn't being measured. Healthcare, 30% post survey removals, 7.5% pre survey removals. Consumer is 12.6% post survey removals and 7.8% pre survey removals. I just felt like they're really high. By the way, the healthcare I mentioned is patients. Physicians is a lot lower. So patients is at 30%. B2B 46.5% are the post survey removals. And that's just ridiculous. And it just, it gives more rationale why there's all these new data quality companies, right? And there's all these new tools coming and all this urgency to try to fix it and expose it. And I mean, as a company that has a healthcare panel and a B2B panel and a consumer panel, I mean, we're not going to try to sell our panel here, but we're nowhere near that. So maybe that's why it's so staggering to me is we just don't remove that much. And if the industry is, we've got problems. What
Yeah,
did
I
you
felt
think?
like the 46%. If I'm being honest, it didn't really surprise me.
Yeah, this
Uh,
shouldn't. Yeah,
I was hoping the problem kind of wasn't that bad, but
yeah.
they, got a lot of submissions, and so I feel pretty confident that that's a relatively useful number. And yeah, it's all right. We've got work to do, and I hope that folks are removing higher than that, or who are at that benchmark, are able to make changes in where they're buying sample and what they're doing in fraud detection and what have you to reduce that. What else, Brian? IA Ignite. There were some really great presentations. IA Ignite B2B was the day after that, right? So kind of unveiled. Look, there's this huge problem in B2B. B2B research the next day. Now, what stuck out to you?
I think overall, having been to a few conferences, the main thing that sticks out to me is that IA Data Quality Day might be the most important day that we all get together as an industry to me. Because when I was looking back at the content and summarizing it, we started off with someone in academia who came from the private sector who kind of summarized, here's all of the tools you can use AI for in marketing research, the entire process from design to analysis, everything in between. And here's the risks associated with it. She kind of walked through that. I think it was about like a 40-minute presentation. I could have done 4 hours. I think I told you that, or I told some people that. I really love that. It was really timely. It was educational. We also had the GDQ panel where it revealed the results and what GDQ is doing and the importance of GDQ and all of the different entities that go into GDQ, like Insight Association and others. We had an AI panel led by
Yep.
Bob Fossen and Data Quality Co-op and leaders in the industry talking about AI and how they're leveraging it and things like that. And so to me, it was very educational. There were other great presentations also, but I really like the education part of it.
Yep.
And when you see 46.5% removal rates in B2B, we need to be educated.
Yes.
We need to sit down as an industry and talk through that at a granular level and talk about how you are. I mean, I wouldn't even say below the mean because that's ridiculous. We need to be way below the mean. We got to get that 46.5% down to 10% or 5%. I don't know how we do that. That's the conversations that should be having, and that's the place to have it because most of these conferences are not doing that. They're collaborating a lot of AI stuff, obviously, and but that's what stood out to me the most was that 1 day data quality. I recommend everybody that cares about data quality, which
Mhm.
I just gotta laugh at what I'm saying that attend that. Somebody from your company should be there and
Yeah.
bringing back those results and being part of the solution and committees and things like that. I'll that's my number one point overall.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's a really great conference. It's kind of a who's who. There's lots and lots of people who attend. And it is, it's really educationally geared, and that I find tremendous value in, right? It's a little bit less of a networking conference, a little bit less of a sales conference, and a lot more about knowledge sharing. So I always, or I shouldn't say always, because they've only been doing it for a few years, but I very much enjoyed it last year. And
Yeah.
this year was certainly no disappointment.
But I missed two other educational things. I'll let you finish your point. Howard Feinberg spoke
Mhm.
about legislative and what he's doing on that end, combating fraud via the law, I think was the name of his presentation.
Mhm.
And then I want to mention Verisol, which we could probably talk about. We could do a whole podcast on Verisol, but
Mhm.
I really liked how they're educating the industry on how fraud happens and
Mhm.
where it's coming from. And they're being very transparent about what they're finding. And
Yeah.
I liked a lot of that.
Well, and one thing that is really, interesting from their presentation that I'll throw out, something that I've had to combat in people's perception of quote unquote fraud, right, is that we have these post hoc removal, or excuse me, yeah, no, it is post hoc, the after survey cleanouts, and we kind of see everything that's bad, and certainly things that are, kind of AI-ish. We call them a lot the bots, and it's all the AIs. The AIs are doing it. And I have always felt that the technological protections that we have to keep like an AI agent or a true bot from taking a survey are
Yeah.
pretty good.
Well, that's
And
funny you mentioned that. But
yeah,
keep going. I've got some stats for you.
yeah. Well, but so Verisol said, it was about 6%
Yeah,
of
6% bots.
they have were like true bots or true AI agents. Now, the amount of people who are non-native speakers, who are using VPNs, who are trying to be a B2B respondent, and really they're just someone sitting in a click farm, right? That is a big chunk of what's going on. But it's a human with a heartbeat armed with AI trying to get that incentive.
Yes, and they spoke about that. They were Sebastian was there presenting yesterday on the topic and showed that similar slide. Proxy usage and spoofing location are by far the two biggest risks to marketing research surveys. At least, and I think they analyzed 50 million. It might have been, I think it was 50 million. 50 million clicks is what they analyzed. And yeah, 6% bots, but the number one and number two with those what I just mentioned. And so now that might change with AI. We'll see because who knows what kind of agentic fraud we're gonna start seeing soon on how that happens. But yeah, keep going. I think I interrupted your point. You probably have more to
Nope.
say.
Nope, that was pretty much the whole point, that I found that to be very insightful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad that they're sharing that, and they're like I think they said maybe I'm wrong about the country. I think they said something like 30 something percent of the fraud comes from Nigeria.
That's correct. They did say that. And
Yeah.
the Nigerian prince scam stopped
Yeah.
working, so now they're taking surveys, I guess.
Yeah. Right. Again, good job at the Inside Association. I love that day. It should be 2 days. It could be a week.
Yep.
We need it, obviously. The B2B day, I think it was more geared towards B2B researchers, I think
Mhm.
brands. And it was good being there. It was nice seeing that perspective. There were some great presentations, but I think the data
Yeah.
quality one is what really stood out to me. But and
Yeah.
also, it was great to see so many people that I
Yeah.
know. You know, when you've been involved in the industry for a while and trying to combat fraud and improve data quality, you're on committees through Insights Association or CASE or SMR or SampleCon or whatever. And the room was just full of like friends and
Yeah.
peers and industry leaders. And that was really cool. We joked around. We had a dinner in Cincinnati a couple months ago with a lot of the names you would know in Cincinnati, and I joked around that we needed to kind of vote off a designated survivor in case the food was bad or we all got food sickness or something happened, and um, we really needed it in Hoboken, New Jersey. We should have voted a few people and sent them on a boat across the Manhattan from Hoboken because, I mean, if you were involved in data quality, there was probably a few names that weren't there, but
Mhm.
about every name you think of was there, and that was really cool.
Yeah. Absolutely.
IIEX.
I
Have you
was
been to
not there.
IIEX?
What?
Have you been to an IIEX?
I have. I've been to two, quite a long
Okay.
time ago, though. Um, always on my list of ones that I would like to go to.
Yeah.
But typically don't make it. I'm excited to hear what you found out, what you brought back to us.
It's just the exact opposite in terms of like format than the Ignite days. Ignite is one big room, one track, you sit at one table, there's not a vendor hall, you're there to learn, and there's some networking breaks and you eat, and that's your day. The GreenBook IIEX is different. It's a show. There were 5 stages, giant vendor hall. It's in the Ronald Reagan Trade Center in Washington, D.C. I've never been there. I think it's the second biggest building in America behind the Pentagon. And just, I mean, amazing, impressive. I have a game I want to play with you, by the way. We'll
Okay.
do it. We'll do that in a second. But like, it's hard to pick the tracks. The networking is busy to get from one track to another. It's kind of like Quirks in a way. If you've been
Mhm.
there, that you got to go from the red stage to the blue stage, and to get there, you got to go to the vendor hall, and who knows is going to stop you and get what
Mhm.
kind of conversation you're going to get into, and then you miss that one, and it's
Right.
one of those. It's a very hectic day if you're trying to see a lot of content because I'm there not just to see content. I mean, I'm there. If there were a salesperson there, they would probably focus more on our clients and prospecting and doing all that. Since I'm the only one there, I wanted to make sure I spoke to all of our clients, especially our
Yeah.
key ones. And I enjoy doing that because, especially some of our key ones that we have partnerships with,
Mhm.
like Qualtrics, for example, that's public. We have a partnership with Qualtrics on their Edge. They had a whole stage and they probably spoke 6 times. And so I wanted to learn a lot more about Edge. And I want to hear the conversations that they had about Edge. And they had about, I don't know, 6 or 8 people there.
Wow.
And getting to know them and be able to ask them tough questions and see what other people are asking them helps me become a better researcher. I'm really impressed with what they're doing. I mean, I can't even tell you how many AI companies were there.
I'm sure.
Um, Unbelievable. And we had that episode about AI anxiety, and this would have been AI anxiety if you went there like. And I think at first that was one of my goals was to I need to identify all the new AI companies and put them in buckets, when to use them, know their capabilities, know their strengths, know their weaknesses, who are they working with. I mean, that's impossible.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. There's too many. In some ways, it's a little complex trying to understand. You have to do demos because you
Mhm.
can say, "Oh, we do AI moderated qual." Well, that can mean a lot of different things, right?
Right.
We do synthetic. We do synthetic sample. Well, that can mean a million different things.
Right.
So it gets to a deep conversation really quick. So that's what the main thing of the takeaway to me is the AI, and I have a lot of thoughts on the format and all the AI companies there that we can get into if you want. We might want to do it on the webinar or somewhere else, but I have a
Sure.
lot of thoughts on it as well.
Yeah. Well, let's save that for the webinar. You
Yeah.
said you had a game, Brian?
Yeah, have a game. I'm gonna name some companies
Okay.
that were at IIEX.
Okay.
You tell me if you know them. And now,
Okay.
and I think if you're listening to this podcast, you know that we're into AI a little bit.
Hmm.
We're into trends, obviously. We keep up with the news. We know what our clients are doing, investing in, and partnering with to a certain extent, right? So we're not sitting here ignorant to what's happening in the industry. I'm gonna name off some companies. You tell me if you've heard of them. All right, the first
Okay.
one I got a bag. I'm gonna shout these people out. Do you know Cookie AI?
I do not.
Yeah, Cookie AI, give me a nice little bag. I think they do AI moderated qual. Have you heard of Outset?
No.
Okay, Outset is one of the bigger ones. Outset AI is AI moderated. They got $51 million in Series B funding.
Okay.
Strella,
I do believe I've heard of Strella.
okay. Kepler,
How is it spelled?
Keplar,
Yes, I've heard of
okay.
them. Yep.
Dialogue AI,
Nope.
Fairgen, we know them.
Yep. We know Fairgen well. Yep.
Yeah. Neurons,
Nope. But cool.
Unanimous AI. I'm just gonna go through some of these really quick.
Yeah.
Unanimous AI, iGenie AI, Decodus, Oreo, Blue Pill, ConvoTrack AI, ConvoSite, Orchard, Phoebe, Codex, Chatty Insights, Scalafe, Supra, Nichefire, Crowdwave, Riley AI, White Sage, Cyclone, Bondum, In Infinity, I think that's how you pronounce it, Do Reveal, Ad Maple, Rodeo, and Lighten.
I didn't know a single one of those, Brian. Wow.
Those, all of them were, most of them had booths. Many of them presented. Those are all new companies in our industry that are doing some sort of AI. I talked to a few of them. I've done a couple demos and come back to our webinar for some serious thoughts on that one. But and that's kind of crazy, right? 5 years ago, you knew 95% of the companies there. There might be a few new
Yeah.
entrants, and like, oh, who's this new guy? By the way, Panel Play won like one of the IX awards.
That's great.
The
We know
industry
them.
changing. We know Panel Play. That was kind of cool. But that's the nature of the conference is innovation. And so
That's
at
right.
an innovation conference, you're going to get a lot of innovation.
Mhm.
And the booths of just like it's like going to CES or something. I feel like I've never been to CES, but I can just imagine. I mean, going there was just like, wow, what industry have I? Because I didn't start off in this industry with the one we're in now for sure. Like
Right.
not that long ago, we barely had marketing people in our industry, right?
Yeah. Right.
When Priscilla McKinney, she started like helping people out with marketing. She's helping out dozens of companies with marketing and the whole industry is who she's helping. Now there's a lot of marketing out
Yeah.
there, and it's like a booth competition, and it's cool in many ways. So I had to like stop that. I can't all those companies. I can't get to know all of them, right? Nobody can. So you got
Right.
to be really strategic. That's some advice I would give people. Is I listed off of 30 companies, and you and I between the two of us are heard of maybe five of them.
Yeah.
That means probably 95% of the industry had heard of zero of them, or maybe one.
Yeah.
And you cannot get to the bottom of what's happening in the industry. And somebody from Langston actually told me the second mouse gets the cheese, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool thing to say. Some of these companies are going to eat each other up. They're going to get swallowed up by bigger companies, but some will be, you know, giant maybe in
Yeah.
2 years. And so it's a little overwhelming. I just got off a plane. I probably just came into this podcast a little hot, but that's kind of the high level of IEX. And I'll put a blog out probably Monday or Tuesday. It might be about the same time this podcast comes out when you're listening to it. There'll probably be a blog with more details on with pictures and things like that. But it's a good conference to go to if you're into innovation. And again, with our partnership with Qualtrics, it was good to see them in action and see the tough questions they got, and which deservedly the industry should be asking tough questions. about to all of these people. That's what I got.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more that we need to kind of dive into some of these companies. It's important to know who the players are, but also, like you said, kind of the cream will rise to the top, right?
Yeah,
The industry doesn't need 40 AI qual moderators, and the ones that work, yeah, that's one thing that's kind of good about marketing research, right? Is we're in and of ourselves as a discipline, which a lot of times you can't say that there's, like a discipline, relatively discerning and technical. And so I'm really interested to set up meetings with some of the ones that you found interesting, and to
yeah,
talk to our clients about companies that they've tried and they've partnered with. But let's save some of the juicy stuff for the
yeah.
webinar on, you said the 12th at 2 p.m. Is that right?
2 p.m. Eastern. Yep, May 12th. You and I doing a little signal and noise webinar. We'll
We
take
will.
live questions.
How wonderful. I can't wait. Well, thanks so much, Brian. I'm
Yeah,
glad you're home safe.
home safe. Oh, BC, by the way, incredible. And this is the joke I told for 2 days. The king was there. Charles was there also. That joke hit all week because if you were in DC, you knew that King Charles was there
Yeah.
because it was increased security. The president just got, you know, trying to get shot at a few days ago. So the security in DC was heightened to say the least. But it was cool to be there. I forget how what an amazing city Washington D.C. is, and it was just I took last night and just kind of had some fun. I normally don't do that. I got to run around, see some monuments, and see the mall, and just see how cool, what a cool city that is, and that was part of the fun too. So I'm glad I got to see that. Anyway, yeah, thanks for listening, Andrew. Good to see you. Join us on our webinar May 12th, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.